Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining today. We will be waiting a few more minutes, actually, a few more seconds for everyone to join. Welcome here to the first CCRI hands-on workshop. This is the first workshop of a series of workshops from the CCRI, so the Circular Cities and Regions Initiative, focusing on bringing actual hands-on and practical lessons to cities and regions. Today, we will be focusing on the topic of supporting local circular businesses, more specifically, unlocking circular incentives that cities and regions already have. All the program today, all the content that you will be seeing is a product of the CCRI communities of practice. This has been an endeavor for already almost 2 years, where more than 50 cities and regions have been peer learning, exchanging, sharing, discussing, analyzing, and all those learnings have been captured in this hands-on workshops program. I see we have now 27, okay, more than 20 participants. So let's wait a bit more so we can start. We have a tight schedule today, but we will make it work. We will just wait for everybody to join here.
In the meantime, we would like to ask you all to rename yourselves. So please, if you have names like, I don't know, iPhone or something like that, please put your name and surname and maybe a hint of your organization so we can understand who you are in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Yes, that will help track the participants, but also help us also with the workshop group that we will be doing afterwards.
And of course, cameras on are always welcome as well if anyone wants to put the camera on so we can see your faces. That would be super nice. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can indeed start. So for those of you that joined just seconds ago, basically this workshop here, I'm going to repeat this concept. This is part of the CCRI Hands-Up workshop program, and it captures all the learnings, all the outcome from the CCRI communities of practice. There has been a program that has, for almost 2 years now, tackling different topics in than 40, 50 cities and regions, also other organizations such as business support organizations, urban planning organizations, and all the learnings that have been captured in this peer learning environment have been used to work on this program. And the topic that is of supporting local circular businesses, which is a very important topic for actually implementing the local circular transition. More specifically, today we will focus on unlocking circular incentives. So what we will do today, basically today, this is a hands-on workshop, so we will work together with you. It will be very interactive. We'll identify where circular ambitions may be blocked, because that's the point, that cities and regions sometimes have already the potential, we just need to unlock it. I will also apologies, I have turned off my camera because it seems that the connection is not the ideal. Let me know if you can hear me now.
Yes, it's fine.
Yes, perfect. We'll proceed like this. Thank you. So basically what we'll do today, we were saying, is a very interactive workshop. We'll explore the hidden powers that cities already hold, and we will co-design, we will discuss together, we will have a peer learning experience here to actually co-design practical enabling conditions that can support the local circular business environment, and then identify what indicators can support upstream circularity. But here, the objective of this workshop today is for you to leave home with something of value from here today. So to live with ideas that could realistically be explored within your city and region in the following days, weeks, and months. Here you can see is the team that we have today. This session is hosted by Climate Kick. Each session will be hosted by a different organization that is supporting the CCRI. And here we have my colleague Ingrid, Marlene, myself, Marco, but we also have a very special guest today, which comes from the city of Vienna, and we will learn a bit more about what actually is happening in Vienna, that we can also draw some lessons into the workshop here today. We will work together with slide presentations as we're doing right now, but we will also get our hands dirty with Miro. If you haven't used Miro, please let us know through the chat. We'll be also sharing the link, sharing the instructions, and we're here to help you and work on this together. You can find it here, the link, but it will be shared, as I said, also through the chat. Thanks to our support team. This is the agenda that awaits for us today. We will have an icebreaker. We will explore the pattern emerging across cities and regions. We will explore 2 case studies, Hackney. We will have also the case study of Vienna, and we will have 2 workshop activities. One for finding the blockers, and one for matching SMEs' needs and what cities can actually support. And then we'll all gather ourselves back and actually share together what we've learned and what we can do together.
Okay, so now we're gonna, so the Miro link is in the chat, so please make your head, like, go to the Miro, because we're gonna do the first activity, or more an icebreaker, because we would like to know who is in the room today. So please go to the Miro, and I'm gonna share my screen and show you what we're gonna do for the icebreaker, and to know a little bit who is there with us today. So let me share, yeah, here it is. Can you all see my screen? The Miro? Yes? Can I just have a yes from someone? Yeah, okay. Because for some reason, I changed laptop and I don't have the same vision than before. Okay, so that's where we are in the Miro. So you can see it's that's our journey for the activities today. So at the very top, but just the intro, I guess. And what we would like to do now is so the icebreaker, to know about who, like, we are 30 people, so who is in the room, and especially who would you need to unlock on circularity, because today it's all about hidden powers and what's already existing in your city, in your organization, to unlock circularity. So what we would like to do here, so what we've done is that we prepared some kind of categories based on the registration, of course, so it might not be perfect, but based on the registration we had some cities, some ESO, business support organization, research, academia, waste operators, and development organization, or others, because obviously we know it's not exhaustive. So what I would love you to do now is to go into the column that corresponds to your profile and where you're from, and take a post-it that's already there. You double click on it, and then you write, so to advance circularity in my local context, so in your local context, who do you need, or what do you need? So if you can do that right now, and then we're just gonna comment on it. And of course, if anyone wants to talk and share out loud, it's welcome as well. Always nice to hear a few voices. Data, cities need data. Yeah, that's something that we heard a lot through the community of practice. ESO needs strategy based on cooperation among local stakeholders. Data from research and academia as well. Funding to build financially viable business model. Support and coordination from state and local council. Need to zoom because some of those words are a bit small. A whole regional ecosystem connected business, academia, citizen, regional government, space to operate, data, identifying stakeholders, financial incentive. So that's really good, because the next sessions we have, Marco will present actually some key learnings that came from the committee of practice of supporting local businesses, and also the white paper. And that's pretty much aligned, or that's reinforcing, I guess, some of the key learnings about the lack of systemic coordination between actors to support circularity. Lack of data, of course, the metrics as well is a big one. That can kind of slow down circularity in cities. So that will come up. So I can see that your insights are really reinforcing basically what we found out through the committee of practice. And finance, of course, always needed, right? So yeah, we have more funding from the cities, financial incentives for SMEs, long-term ownership. Yeah, so long-term and sustainability funding is a key one as well. Business engagement, monitoring data, how to reach SMEs. So it's more about communicate and get them involved. We can see as well that we have the majority of the participants seems to be more from cities and other organizations or development organizations. Staff capacity is a good one as well, because that's true that sometimes we have strategies in place and we have so much ambition, but we don't have the people or the resources to actually unlock circularity. How do I move the screen? Okay, Marco replied. How do I move the screen on Miro? Everybody's okay on Miro? I can see quite a few cursors, so I think it's fine. But in case you have any questions, yeah, please drop them in the chat, how to use it. We don't have any waste operators, apparently, which is fine. Data, we have some comments. Matthias, professor for building systems and sustainable resource management at Zurich University. Hello, Matthias. Data management level. Okay, so I think we have quite a good view already about connection, financial incentives, data, and stakeholder coordination mainly. Does anyone want to say anything before, like, I don't know, any inspiration or like what you would like to achieve today or connect it to before we go to the next? We have 1 minute left.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Legarda Campos from Navarra region. I write down the one of the interconnected ecosystem. So I would like to understand and to see some examples of any region or city that, for example, create a transition team within the institutions and also with other key stakeholders such as citizens, and because we have a strategy in place, but we are trying to learn how to engage with citizens better and also how to work in another way within the government and the rest of organizations. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Legarda. Yeah, hopefully, so we're gonna definitely touch on the business connection. Hopefully, yeah, we can talk about citizen engagement as well. Let's see what comes up with the different stakeholders. But we'll have an activity after around the key challenges and the key potentially hidden powers. So yeah, hopefully that will come up. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you everyone. So I'm gonna stop sharing now. It's nice to see that you have common challenges. And now we're going to go to the next part of our agenda, which will be Marco again, talking about the key insights from the main findings from the Committee of Practice on supporting local businesses, to frame a little bit our conversations to come.
Yes, thank you, Marlene. I will keep my camera off just to make sure that you can hear me well, and please let me know in case you don't. So as I said to you earlier, all the work that all the learnings that we're using to make this hands-on workshop program come from the communities of practice. We had with actually some cities that I saw here today, like we have from Sudena, we have the city of Munich. We have worked together with them through several sessions, explored some of the key levers, key causes of what of what there, and we realized actually that there is a misalignment between what cities and regions provide in terms of support measures and what business actually needs. And we also then drafted together with the insights coming from the cities and regions a white paper addressing this. We have seen through this that there are strong circular ambitions at a local level. There are growing ecosystems of circular businesses, but all this momentum that has been building around the circular transition, still we're observing a misalignment in between the business needs, so what they actually business needs, and what they actually their dynamics, and then what public systems have been providing so far, going also far beyond what just providing us a budget or funding one initiative. So we know that the communities of practice and the white paper helped us identify this misalignment. We observed that governance structures and institutional routines still have a linear economic logic. So here we're fighting with a linear logic that is present. So here we're working with a transition. Sometimes support is already there, but doesn't reach the businesses. So it's also, are we speaking the same language? How do we also meet how do we speak the same language, and how do we meet what actually business needs, so that then it contributes also a way back for the local circular transition? We have seen fragmented, siloed, and short-term support systems because sometimes circularity is spread across different departments, right? So then the targets, the programs are difficult to actually coordinate, right? This was also maybe mentioned here by Sodena a while ago about how to create a transition team, right? We have observed also the procurement frameworks, and there are legal uncertainties. Sometimes this discourages experimentation. A business comes to the city and region, sees a process that is too difficult to go through it, and then it's discouraged to actually experiment on a circular practice. There is also a problem with data. Data was already mentioned now in the Miro exercise, but also data. We've been also managing flows of resources, monitoring them, but what we have not been able so far doing it so well in cities and regions, but also in businesses, is capturing the circular value. Because then we can speak the same language, and then we can also target what's business, the language that businesses actually speak. And of course, since we're still working with a complex transition, we have observed weak demand signals and market conditions that we still need to work to improve in order to have more circular, local circular business models. But here, there's not one challenge. The challenge is not that cities and regions don't have the ambition, don't have the will to provide the cities and the measures that they can provide. But there is a problem on systemic design here. And here into this today's session and with the white paper, it's something that we address. We will share because it will be soon, very soon published. This white paper we will share with you. You will actually can go and read everything in detail. What are the challenges of cities and regions, different cities we've been working with, how we bridge the perspective in between cities and business, and actually a proposed framework to addressing this misalignment in a systemic way called the Simple Framework, which you can see very in a nutshell here, but we will go into the solutions later on. And but just here in a snapshot, this framework tackles systemic thinking, ecosystem-based approaches, alignment, multi-level coordination, portfolio approaches, and learning mechanisms. Now, the work that we've been doing so far has allowed us to work also, as I said, with cities and regions directly. So we've been exploring also case studies. We've been seeing how, for example, in the small country of Slovenia, actually in the smallest region of Slovenia, a region working with Just Transition has positioned the Just Transition Center as a coordination hub for alignment of ambitions, alignment of funding between the multi-level levels of governance that come between the local cities and at a national level. And they have been using a portfolio flow approach, focusing on a set of diversified tools and using a continuous learning process to actually adapt them. This is something that we also promote through the Simple Framework as well. Because as we said, we're working with a circular complex transition, a systemic problem, so we need systemic design addressing the point at different levels of change. A key insight is that circular transition can support in order to support the circular transition, we can support it. We should support it through different departments, different institutions. So alignment and coordination, orchestrations are crucial. Now, we have captured 3 tensions that we will focus on today. The first tension is that what gets prioritized gets measured. Data was mentioned earlier. We said that the problem here is that we have maps of flows, we have maps of resources, but then actually, what is the circular hidden value of this? Because that can actually make happen circular economics happen, right? In the case of London, that was working with the communities of practice, this was observed by them. They recognized that we've been speaking different languages, we've been capturing data, but what is the best way for me to convince a business? What is the best way for me to provide support to a business or provide value to a business is actually to speak the same language to them. So actually try to translate from the data the city or the region or the business support organization has, and actually extrapolate the indicators of value that then we can translate and then speak the same value with cities and regions. But here also our monitoring frameworks also are a bit rigid, and we need to actually change it because also the business environment and the circular business environment are fastly and rapidly changing. Now we will have a Mentimeter exercise. The screen is currently loading, but please, now that it's available, grab your phone or your laptop. You can see here a QR code or actually the numeric code that you can put on the website. We will wait 1 minute for you to actually get comfortable with Mentimeter, to get into Mentimeter, but please let us know through the chat if you have any trouble accessing it. We will focus first on this question. What are 1 or 2 dominant circularity KPIs in your city region? Do they incentivize prevention, reuse, and demand reduction? Okay, effective use cycles. Maybe if you would like to explain a bit more also in the chat, you'll be happy. It will be really appreciated. We'll wait also for more answers to see what patterns we can also recognize.
So I think we can see only 1 response, but we're supposed to have 4, so I'm not sure why it doesn't come up on the shared screen.
I see KPIs are focused on value chain analysis, knowledge transfer, business tackled, and circular economy projects.
So we have also secondary raw material use rate, the dominant KPI, waste reduction, decreased new materials use, economic output. So lots of materials, resource efficiency, energy efficiency, money spent on projects to implement circularity.
I like the behavioral topic also handled here as well. KPI, demand reduction, behavioral across the ecosystem. Behavior is very important. Circular material use and circularity rate, of course. And maybe how could we capture the value of circularity to actually translate this to business benefits? Okay, now we can see here that based on your if we gather all the inputs that you've shared, we see material efficiency, waste minimization. We've been So apologies for this, we've been having some issues with the Mentimeter, but we're back. Yes. I think we can move to the second question, to the second tension now that we've received all the answers. We have the second tension, that is contract versus circularity. And so what systems reward shapes behavior? Behavior was already tackled a bit here. And so we have that scaling circular economy, it's difficult, right? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't. Procurement teams often lack the time, and actually cities and regions often have this issue with capacity, with time, resources, and also this time that serves to build incentives, test new models, test new approaches. Working together with Enschede, we really identified that certification requirements were preventing circular construction materials from entering the procurement processes, despite circular alternatives being available. Then also talking with Andalusia, which was not in our COP, but we were also exchanging with cities outside our communities of practice. They introduced procurement contracts requiring recycled materials in construction projects, using procurement to actively create demand for circular materials, because that's the main thing about circular procurement, is actually giving a boost or giving a plus to the circular demand, which actually sometimes is a key obstacle. Now we'll move to the Mentimeter here. We have a second question for the second tension. We have the same link, the same QR code. Here we have, what are we paying for? Does our contract reward volume or value? This, think about your city and region. So what is the actual metric here? Okay, we see one contract rewarding value, 3 on volume, which was generally the trend that we were observing through the communities of practice. Okay, 3 on value, so it's actually good to see, 5 and 3. Please feel free to share more information about this through the chat. We can see almost a half-half, 50-50 seen here, where yes, actually almost really 50-50. What does the contract reward actually, volume or value? So so we have certain cities and regions already working in this direction towards translating circularity towards value, because value then is the key language that then we can also talk together with business. Often we said there's lack of capacity, but that's why also together with us today we have, and in the community of practice, we have also business support organizations, and here the city shouldn't and doesn't need to work alone. So there are enablers, intermediaries, regional development agencies, business support organizations, circular hubs, all here part of an ecosystem that needs to work together to make this circularity happen. Okay, we have 11 answers here so far of the overall 20. So 20 that here. We will wait a bit more. Please, team, if you see any questions in the chat, because now I'm on the Mentimeter, do let us know, and let us know if there are any comments deepening the insights here. Okay, we will wait a few more seconds before we move to the third tension. We mentioned that we are focusing on 3 tensions today. Okay, I think we can move to the third tension. So the third tension is about budgets versus outcomes. What receives stable funding scales. And this is a problem that we have been seeing with many circular initiatives, circular hubs, circular projects or programs, that they are short-lived. So they are programmed with a certain funding for 1, 2, 3 years maybe, and then after this funding run, it's finished, then the initiative dies, and there is not a continuum, right? So there is not the possibility of building a momentum, of upscaling, and also building trust with the beneficiaries, which they can see then a system, a stable system where they can rely on, which they can work with as a sparring partner, as a collaborator to make the circularity testing, the circularity upscaling, the circular models that they need to make their business more circular. With Lyon Metropole, which was in a communities of practice, we actually saw that a circular incubator closed after its grant expired. So this has another consequence, disrupting then the beneficiaries of the incubator or the hub that the city is working with, right? Brussels, in the Brussels case, what we saw, we went with our community of practice and we visited the city of Brussels, we learned with them, and we saw that Brussels paired grants with coaching supports to help businesses refine their financial model, to trying to provide not only funding, but also the necessary coaching that can help them build, for example, a more sustainable finance model, a more sustainable business model, and also improve their operational readiness, because that's also often what happens, because of course the city and region can't give funding always and always, because we also have limited funding as cities and regions. But what we can improve is also work through other levels with the beneficiaries to actually improve their operational readiness, build their capacities so that they can also build their own capacities, build their processes after the initial funding ends. And Brussels, what they actually did through their Be Circular program is that they also developed a multi-year funding program and captured the evolving needs of businesses based on a continuous learning program through the years. So this is also very important here, because we said that business context changes and circular business context changes as well, regulation changes. So then we actually need to update our learnings in order to make more in order to address this in a more stable fashion. And final question of the Mentimeter before we move on to the next session. Which objective in your city has money attached, and could circularity help deliver it? Since we have a busy schedule today, we will spend 1 to 2 minutes here, and then we'll move to the next session. So if you know about any initiative in your city that has budget allocated or budget to be allocated in the future, already identified now, calculated, how could circularity help deliver it? Reducing residual waste, zero waste concept implementation, CO2 emission reduction. Yes, all these are, circularity can have potential impacts on this, especially if we develop the local circular business ecosystem. We can reduce our emissions, we can reduce waste. The circularity has to provide measurable benefits, that's true. Without measuring it, we don't know at which point we are, and we don't know what we can improve, actually. The ecological transition, the food waste reduction, we see waste and byproducts valorization, reducing municipal waste levels. So here we see really the value of circularity and reducing waste. But also, I like that I see here also the energy transition, housing and regeneration, embodied carbon targets, circular construction. Okay, here we're thinking one step ahead, right? I love this. Let's wait for a few more of these inputs before we move to the next session. Greener energies. Often circular economy and energy transition are not matched and are working also in different departments within cities and regions. So it's good that we have also here people already thinking about this link. And if we cluster all your inputs, what we see is waste reduction, energy transition, carbon emissions, and circular construction. Now we will move to the next session. And I'll give the word to my colleague Ingrid.
Thank you, Marco. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. I'm gonna share my slides here shortly. I hope we all can see my slides. I'll go to presentation mode. Can you please confirm you can see my slides? You can see my screen?
Yes.
Great.
It's not in presentation mode yet, though.
I hope now it is.
Yes.
Great. So welcome everyone. I'm gonna share quickly the case study of Hackney, and I will present as a founder of a small business in Hackney, the bulk market. So here you can see the overview of Hackney that was back in 2017. So it was a growing network of refill shops, repair initiatives, grassroots circular spaces. I've spent 15 years of my life in London, and Hackney is a place I know really well. And it was an area where I chose to start Bulk Market. It was a social enterprise, first known as the original zero waste shop in London. What struck me during that time was the energy, the circular energy that existed there: refill shops, repair cafes, community composting initiatives, grassroots organizations, taking over derelict spaces, turning them into something new. And entrepreneurs and innovators were quietly making Hackney a place where was more circular, driven by the conviction of the market opportunity, of course, but then there was this feeling that the borough wasn't yet in a position to fully embrace that circular momentum in a way that would allow all these businesses to thrive. And the mechanism the city had in hand had been designed for a different system, and adapting them to what circular SMEs actually needed was harder than anyone else expected. And there's this gap between ambition and institutional readiness is what I will show you a little bit. So here you have an overview. It has this little map here where all these circular SMEs and zero waste shops were located in the borough, and then you have some initiatives that are gonna deep dive in a minute. So here you see how the governance was built for a different system. So like most cities and most places, Hackney's governance infrastructure had been built for a lean economy. So it's not like criticism, it's just like the reality of how institutions were designed. Waste performance was really measured around tonnage and recycling rate. Contracts rewarded collection and processing volume. Then prevention and reuse didn't really appear in the KPIs. When the council tried to incentivize circular behavior through recycling rewards scheme, as an example, the incentive was designed around recycling performance rather than waste prevention. Then residents could earn £100 vouchers, but they would be redeemable only in Marks and Spencer's businesses, not really like the local businesses, local SMEs would not benefit from those vouchers, like my own business. And some residents reportedly started creating more waste just to earn more vouchers. So the logic was being exploited in a negative way. And this is not bad intent, it's just like how a system optimized for a different set of outcomes is built. And when circular businesses started operating in that system, they found the signals were pointing in a different direction. And then you can see here, basically, everything that was not recycled, end-of-life materials ended up in the Edmonton incinerator that belongs to the North London Waste Authority and is the biggest incinerator and covers a lot of boroughs. So the waste infrastructure question sits in the heart of this. All the residual waste was going there, and I think this incinerator covers 7 boroughs, not just Hackney. At that time, you see on the left some comments. I took that from the Hackney Citizen, is a local newspaper, and the political leadership at the time, Councillor John Burke, under that earlier political mandate, he was really clear-eyed about the systemic issue of waste. So the challenge was not just operational; a single actor could solve it alone in 2020. a major community consultation found that with prevention efforts from residents and businesses, they could cut waste going to Edmonton by 4.5 tons a year. And that ambition was real and measurable. Then the political leadership changed. When you see the other side, on the right side of this slide, you can see that by 2025, the framing shifted. So the new councillor described incineration as best value for taxpayers and the best environmental outcome. And the language of economic value moved away from prevention towards incinerating a higher volume of materials. And interesting enough, you can see that this year's circularity gap report found out that end-of-life waste alone represents 10 trillion euros of avoidable annual value loss globally. So for every 3 euros of economic value created, around 1 euro is lost to linear material use, so incineration or not recovering that the value of it. What gives me optimism is that policy is really increasing, is doing its job, is shifting the initiatives and the underlying logic of waste management towards more upstream indicators. So you can see the deposit return scheme, the extended producer responsibility DPR schemes, and simpler recycling. This happens in Britain. Is bringing new income streams to borrowers like Hackney. So producer-funded money that is not coming from the public purse, and it could be directly put towards upstream circularity, where the waste prevention lives. So the North London Waste Authority shared some data that 14.5 million pounds in EPR funding were raised in 2025-2026 alone. So that's a new resource available for the kind of work that could not have funding before. The policy shifts creates new room for cities to act, and it's really a useful bridge that we want to explore next. I will show you a little bit of hidden powers that I found out during my time that I had the business in Hackney informally, and often through simple creativity. So the first one that was unlocked was the composter. So even with a governance system that was not designed for circularity, and even though changes in political leadership, I found moments where the city could offer something, not always through formal channels, not always through the way I expected, but the levers were there. So when Bulk Market set up a community composting scheme in store, I asked the council for support, and they could not fund a composter or help me to buy one, because they didn't have a budget for that, but they helped me find a composter that was decommissioned from a local school, and they arranged the collection of the composter. And he was the really hard working employee, Mr. Compy, we used to call the composter, played his role quite well until 2021 when we replaced it with a redone system that complied really nicely with the exemptions, the T23 exemptions we had there in England. To run a composting scheme, you need to have a waste permit and all these things, and it's simplified if you run a community composting scheme. So the free license needed to run that, the council was really supported on that part as well. For us, it was a little bit scary to navigate how to get a waste permit, to move the compost to the community garden, and also receive the waste from households without having to give a waste transfer note every time. So that hidden power was knowledge, navigation, and a connection, and not money directly. And here is what happened. So Mr. Compy's outputs were being donated to the community garden, Garden of Earthly Delights, that was few roads down in Graham Road. It was also a derelict space that a group Extinction Rebellion activists took over and transformed it to a DIY garden. They negotiated with the council to formalize the arrangement. So when this space had to move to make a way for a new overground station entrance there, the council also didn't end the collaboration, but found them another space nearby, and they gave them a really cheap lease. So they continued having the community space running. And then the Library of Things, I think this example, maybe you know a little bit better than the others. It's a borrowing service, household items that are available to borrow rather than buy. And the value of this is many items people, they just buy once and they use it not many times and then throw it away, or they are not really used until the end of life of that product. And then here you can borrow anything that you need, like a special hoover for your carpet or power tools or anything that you don't use often. And they also teach you how to use them. And the space that they needed to do the library things were facilitated by the council as well. So there was the old Hackney baths and they had empty space there. It was sitting underused, and then the council gave them the this ability to use that space. So that was the enabling condition that made this service available to citizens. And then the loop was also something interesting. In Hackney Week, there was like a derelict space. It was an abandoned warehouse, and residents engaged with the local trust to contact the landlord of this place. The landlord considered the use of the space in a peppercorn lease. I don't know if you're not from England, maybe this term is a bit strange, but a peppercorn lease means that you pay almost little or no rent to a place, and you have a contract and you're legal, everything, but you basically don't pay any lease, any rent. And then other actors came into to create like a consortium. So London, the Greater London Authority, the GLA, London Borough of Hackney also supported innovators using the studios. And then a private-public partnership community consortium created the circular hub out of nothing. So it was a building that was just sitting there, and then it was created this hub that everybody could experiment and try new things there. So the hidden powers at work are space convening, network of actors that who knew how to connect. So no budget, new budget created, no policy, just the existing levers used in a different way. So this is the Hackney story, circular entrepreneurs finding their way, governance system catching up in places, political winds shifting, hidden powers unlocked informally and formally, sometimes by accident, sometimes by design. And now it's your turn. So in the next activity, we are going to work together to find the blockers and the hidden powers in your cities, in your context, using your own experience. So we're going to move back to Miro again, and I'll give you the floor to Marco again, who's going to lead you through, going to walk you through the next exercise.
No, it's me actually, but that's okay. I'm going to take over. So yeah, so now let's go back to the Miro. So you should have the link. I'm going to share my screen and show you where we are and where we would need your input. So yeah, you can see my screen, I think. So that's where we are, finding the blockers and the hidden powers. So thank you so much, Ingrid, for the Hackney case study, because it gives us a good view already about, so what are some of the blockers, that some good examples, let's say, of blockers in Hackney, and in hidden powers as well. So so we're going to do it in three kind of steps. So first, we're going to look at the blockers that are in the cities, then the hidden powers, and then also at the end, but we can do it in parallel if you have some ideas of indicator upgrade, basically, how we could get better indicators to track circularity in our cities based on those issues that we just discussed. So first, we're going to start with the blockers. So we're going to stay all together, but so you can participate all at the same time. But obviously, if you have comments, if you want to raise your hand, if you want to say anything, that's more than welcome. So for the blockers, so I know we have cities and regions, of course, in the room today, and we have support organizations. So that's the kind of two target audience to do that exercise. But if you are another organization, obviously participate, and I'm sure you have a view about some of the blockers that your city has, or that business organization that you know may have as well. So basically, if you're in a city, I want you to think about what in your governance system makes it hard to support circular businesses. And you have some inspiration here. So is it metric-based, so some KPI or that get in the way? Contract-based, so are there some logic rewards in contracts, some logics in the contracts that actually reward wrong behaviors, for example? Is it a problem of budget, so short-term budgets not aligned with the circular ambitions, or is it any regulatory or administrative process that slow things down in terms of permitting, for example? So those are examples coming from Hackney as inspiration. It doesn't mean that necessarily in those categories. But think about, what are some of the blockers in your city? And same, so for the ESO support organization and other organization, think about what do circular businesses must need from cities and regions that they're actually not getting at the moment. So what are some of the blockers to not support those local businesses? So pick the color of Post-it that corresponds to your organization and your perspective, and add them to the board. And then we'll see if we have, like, what patterns do we have basically in the room. In case you have any troubles with Miro and wants to speak out loud as well, don't hesitate to do so. Okay, so metrics lacking, missing the social and economic vision of the circular economy and only the environmental aspects. And that's a good point, linked to the chat as well. I think Caitlin was asking about the benefits that are broader than just business benefits. And that does reflect that, right? Like, circular economy is to support environmental outcomes, but what about citizen society outcomes and better quality of life and these other benefits? Cities focus more on short-term CO2 reduction, whereas circular economy has more long-term effects, but it's essential to reach net zero, yeah, for sure. So in terms of contract, circular economy governance mandate at regional level is fragmented among certain departments. Yes, and that's a key blocker for circular economy, because circular economy is not, it's across sectors, across value chains. So actually, where do you have ownership of circular economy metrics? Because it's very rare that you have like a department or specifically dedicated to circular economy. So yeah, that makes total sense. Budget, we have a few popping up in budget, material prices. Circularity is not positioned as a direct budget in local authorities. Yeah, so assigning committed budget is difficult. Too much focus on recycling, less on reduction. Yeah, so that's a great point, because that's right, that especially, and it relates with when you were talking about the metrics in the Mentimeter, a lot is about waste reduction and materiality as well, the materials, raw materials. And so we talk a lot about recycling, but what about the other R's, of course? So remanufacture, reuse, repair, and we don't have many metrics about that, and budget, I guess. Material prices, in some cases, C funding is project-based. Yeah, but that's linked to the lack of systemic connection we discussed before as well, for sure. Cities are not building circularity in their procurement. Yes, that's, but let's see if it comes up in hidden powers, because yeah, procurement can be a really big enabler for circularity. Emission versus economic KPIs, and on top circularity and how it affects other KPIs. Yeah, so some KPIs seems more important than others, I guess. Circularity is more easily assigned to waste than progressing to a systemic KPI. Yes, for sure. And what do we have in permitting and process? So byproducts consideration, lack of enabling regulation, lack of communication, fragmented governance, short-sighted decisions, not enough available space. Social aspects, some countries can't apply some initiatives, library of things. So what's the, I don't know who put that in, but can I have more background around that? Why library of things wouldn't work in different contexts and countries? If someone wants to speak up or put more in the chat to build on your answer. lack of coordination among the different levels of government. Oh, sorry.
What about our community of practice members here present so far? What about Sodena? Do you feel like speaking?
Yes. In general, or so in our case at the regional level, regarding permit and processes, we ask directly companies and intermediate stakeholders. And for example, in some cases, I put the example of byproducts consideration, because this is fragmented among Europe and within Spain. So it's a blocker for certain products that could be could capture their, like, companies could capture their value, and because of regulation, it is not possible at the moment. And regarding the budget, in some cases, some funding is focused on project based, so it's a bit complex to go on certain activities if there is not a project involved in these areas. But I think this is not the case of only in our region, and it's overall Europe. If you have any questions, I can also give an answer.
Thank you, Legata. Any other comments or things people want to comment on? Otherwise, we might move to the hidden powers. But I can see I still have a few people putting post-it. So do you need a few more minutes? Or did you put your points mainly? We have a comment actually linked. So in some countries, the cultural heritage doesn't permit several initiatives as library of things. For instance, in some countries in the South, people could, no, sorry, I can't see, attempts without give them back. So the cultural aspect is fundamental. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, because library of things is actually, there are two sides of it. So you can take things for you and you keep them, or it's actually the rental system as well. So yeah, you can see it in two different ways. But yeah, I totally get it. London is more North mentality on that. What else do we have? Waste innovation is declining revenues. We see little incentives to reduce waste production. Yeah, that's really aligned with the acne example as well. Okay, I think we have a good view of those issues. So metrics obviously not focused on circularity, not enough budget for circularity, more waste reduction, recycling. So there is no direct budget as well. Lack of coordination and ownership, circular economy governance doesn't really exist. Procurement as well is a kind of a blocker, so it's not enabling circularity. The metrics we already said, and then linked again to the other R's, there is the byproducts consideration, the lack of enabling regulation, and the lack of coordination. So yeah, that's a lot of blockers that kind of reinforce the message that we have already in the Menti. So now let's move to the hidden powers. So here, The stickies are mainly for the cities and regions in the room because we want to know about the potential hidden powers. But feel free, if you are an ESO, a business support organization, or another organization, if you know any hidden powers, potentially of the cities you live in, or through the stakeholders you know, obviously you are more than welcome to share your perspective. But here, so we put some examples again to kind of inspire and see if that makes sense, but they don't necessarily need to be, in each category. So looking at those examples, what do you, so as a city or region, already hold that could help address the blockers identified? So here, the examples we have is potentially space assets, because we had some of the blockers in terms of lack of space, so empty buildings, unused land, public infrastructure, procurement. So it's been mentioned as a blocker. So could we use some contracts, some tenders or supplier requirements to actually address some of those blockers? Some adjacent budgets that we could use as well, because there is no budget for circularity, but perhaps given circularities across different sectors and value chains, we could leverage different budgets as well. And also data, potential data and convening, so access networks, get some stakeholders together, some permitting. So they're just examples again, so you can add others, of course. But what would be some of the hidden powers that you hold at the moment? To use the planning system to its full potential. So do you mean the planning in terms of urban planning, like the use of facilities, or working with private-public partnership on a CE hub? Okay, that would be good. So create, what do you think by CE hub? Like more like a space, basically, a hub where some initiatives could happen around circular economy? Just keen to hear a bit more. Training facilities available for teaching and resources. In terms of procurement, sustainable public procurement in place, yes. Embedding circular metrics in tender and grant opportunities. So here, do you have any specific ideas about which procurement rules you could target? Because of course, embedding circular criteria in procurement would be an enabler, but do you have specific ideas, for example, I don't know, procurement of local food for public institutions, or procurement of circular materials for furniture in public institutions, or, like that would be good to go a little bit more in detail so that we can think practically and more specifically about what would be available, if you have ideas, of course, because otherwise it's quite general. Adjacent budgets, energy transition at ports is necessary for green shipping, and tapping into this, we can extend the sea into the port city interface. Yes, yeah, definitely. And you're right that the port element, the shipping element is very relevant, but also any energy transitions budget can definitely be tapped into. We talk a lot about waste reduction management, materials as well. So it's linked to energy a lot. So that's a great point. Installing a local finance group, so funding from EIB for climate protection and sea projects. Yeah, so EIB is doing a lot of circular economy funding indeed. What else do we have? Map abandoned or underutilized spaces that could serve as hubs. Yes. So do you have any specific spaces you thinking about? You know, like for example, if in your city you have, I don't know, warehouse that used to be a factory and now it's not used anymore. If you just can try to be specific about specific hidden powers, that would be great. So then we can think about solutions in that space. Existing innovation center to create an area of circular economy. Okay, so if that's already existing, that's great. So that's facilities. Create a sandbox for revitalization of those urban underutilized spaces. Okay, so let's link to this. Planning policy and development plans for future development. Yeah, so that's linked to the planning system to the full potential. Smart specialization strategy. Okay, so we have a little bit more details here. So in events with food and beverage require reuse system rather than single use. Yeah, okay, so you mean the packaging, the containers, I guess. Sustainable public procurement in place, criteria implementation. Yeah, so organic food, electronics, leasing clothes instead of buying, end of life criteria. Okay, great. I love that level of details. Thank you for adding a little bit more in there, because then the second activity we're going to do, it's more about thinking about designing packages basically to support businesses. So what the city has and what the business would need to enable circularity and create like a very concrete set of interventions. So that's why I'm asking you to be more specific, because then we can leverage that into designing some pilots and some things we can actually try to activate. Okay, so lots of good ideas. In terms of spaces as well, it seems like there are space available, innovation centers, training facilities that could be used. Mapping health and buildings and infrastructure to understand the value. Yeah, so that's linked to the planning to the full potential. And the C hub, I'm going to put that here because it's linked to the hub, a place where teach C. So link to up. Okay, and I put all of that because basically it's about mapping the free spaces. That with the hub, yeah. Okay, so we got some idea on procurements. Data. We have a little bit more in data. Communicate what works well and lessons learned. Green energy incentives. Yeah, so maybe that's linked to the energy budget. That's one as well. Okay, so we're a little bit short in time as well. So can I ask you now, if you have more ideas around hidden powers, add them to the board for sure. And you can also leverage your ideas when we're going to do the second activity. So in the last 2 minutes, any ideas in terms of indicator upgrades, because we talk about obviously being too much focused on recycling, on waste. So is there anything we could measure differently to make upstream circularity visible in your city or context? So here, obviously, you can be a city, you can be any organization to think about specific metrics. So any ideas about how we could change and upgrade our indicators? So obviously it could be of waste prevented, for example, rather than just recycling. Maybe looking at the businesses that are supported as an economic development indicator. So those ones are just ideas. They're not necessarily what would be right for your city or for your organization and in your context. Maybe I saw before some of ideas around procurement with the clothing and the energy. So how we could potentially measure reuse and repair, all this kind of circular transaction. City contrast with circular criteria. So just, pop in your ID for the next minute or so. And then we're going to go to the Vienna case study, I think. But all those ideas, obviously, will help us for the second activity where we're going to design a palette of interventions. Does anyone want to talk about something or express one of their key hidden powers or a strong idea they have?